morning. If I were to put a title on this sermon, I would call it The Eternal Quench. It's a familiar story. We know this story about the Samaritan woman. We may not be familiar, but the Samaritans believed that God resided on a different mountain than Jerusalem. And so there was this controversy at the time, and the Jews, those who call themselves the Jews, worshipped in Jerusalem, the temple in Jerusalem, and the Samaritans on the mountain where we are with Jesus and this well. Jesus, we know, is tired and thirsty, and he's sitting by the well, and he asks a woman who is sitting there if he could have a drink of water. I'm sorry, but I can't help but think about protocols about drinking and who's going to shake hands and all this that we're talking about these days with the coronavirus. So there was a protocol at the well. First of all, Jesus wasn't supposed to be talking to a woman, period, but talking to a woman who was from Samaria was even worse. But I want to focus on a different part of this story, and that's just for today. There are just probably 100 sermons that could emerge from this text. The thing is, he says to her, "Go get your husband and come back." Why does he ask that question? Is he really wanting her husband to come back? No, he isn't. It's a bait to get into a conversation with her. And she says, "No, I have no husband." And he says, "That's right, you don't have a husband. You've had 5 husbands. In fact, the man you're with right now is not your husband, so you tell the truth." And I'm going to say, just parenthetically, that aren't we all like that? Especially women today. "Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine." When things are not fine. But the question is, how did Jesus know this? That's the question on her mind. And why did it matter? Or rather, what did it matter? Why ask that question, "Where is your, go and get your husband?" I suspect that it only mattered because it was a testimony to God's faithfulness through Jesus. There was an opportunity here for Jesus to show this woman the water of the Spirit of eternal life. So there are 2 elements in the story. One is that Jesus bears news to a Samaritan woman, a foreigner, and that he talks about what I like to call the eternal quench, the kind of water where you do not ask for more, you have enough. God knows. That to me is the message here. God knows that she has had 5 husbands and that the man she's with, she's not married to. We have placed ourselves in such a conservative view of life in our country that we would think this is scandalous. But it doesn't really matter because God knows. Who are we hiding from? These things that happen in our lives that are different. God knows. And that's the message this morning. God knows our suffering, our conflicts, our struggles. Today, we have announced that the Right Reverend Barbara Harris died on Friday, March 13th. I won't make any remarks about the fact that she died on Friday the 13th. I remember Barbara. I voted for her. I was in the pews when that election took place, and I'll never forget that moment because I was sitting with a friend, a woman friend, ordained, and when the numbers came up, I am a numbers person. I recognized immediately that she had been elected, and I jumped up and grabbed my friend, and then I looked around, and there were probably more than 500 people there, and nobody else was jumping up. And I realized I was a little premature and out of place, because in truth, it was a momentous change in our life as Episcopalians. And in fact, it's not often said this way, but she was the first woman to become a bishop in the entire world and all of history. It's not just the Anglican Church or the Episcopal Church, in all of history. And I was there. So as a young priest, woman, I had fantasy about how I was going to change the garb of clergy, maybe wear lace around the bottom of my collar. Because, you know, we women, we didn't know quite how we were to be in company with others and as a figure. So a lot of us were sort of chatting behind the scenes, you know, wonder, you know, what kind of trend is she going to set? And a black woman, I thought, well, she's going to come with flannel shirts and, you know, sneakers and a real down-to-earth kind of person. No, not Barbara Harris. She arrived with high-heeled shoes, a mink coat, and a powder blue BMW. She was the trend setter. She helped lift us up. And she had some wonderful, wonderful words to say and a wonderful message for us. Today, the coronavirus, COVID-19, we hear over and over in the news, and we're told to keep a distance from one another. We're not to be close. And I was thinking about that, this contrast between distance and closeness, and thinking about our God. God is transcendent, and God is also immanent. In fact, theologians have argued about this. Hegel brought up the idea of the dialectic. So we don't have one or the other, but we have a dialogue between the immanence and closeness. And I have a point I'm coming to. Our mission today is to become close to one another without touching, without hugging, and without being face to face. But we are part of the family of God, a God that is transcendent and immanent. And as a community of faith, as followers of Jesus Christ, we have an edge on others, and that is that we have the spiritual strength to overcome adversity, to love invisibly, The virus is not visible either, but we can overcome it because we have enough love in our hearts. And we are called to act responsibly and to be, like Barbara Harris, the trend setters, the ones who show others how we need to behave to love one another in a different way than we're accustomed to. Now is the time to swim in the water of eternal life. It's all around us. To care about our neighbor, not to hoard, but to share. No, a month ago, did we ever think we were going to be looking for hand sanitizer? You know, who had the market? Who is it that figured out that everybody's going to want hand sanitizer? So go to the store and buy as many bottles as you can and put them in their house in the cupboard somewhere. We should be taking our hand sanitizer out on the street, squirting everybody. We should be sharing gloves. We should be helping one another to live and be healthy. That is the way of Jesus. That is the living water. To drink the life-giving water of love for one another in a new way, in a creative way, in a different way. And so I'll conclude and say, may God bless you on this new path that follows an ancient road. Amen.